What if a conversation with God could completely transform your life? What if Jesus had left advice revealing the most powerful way to connect with the Creator? In this video, we will explore Jesus' words on how to speak correctly with God and experience a new dimension in prayer. We have all prayed at some point in our lives, but have you ever wondered if you are praying the right way? Jesus gave us clear guidance on how to communicate with God powerfully, purposefully, and peacefully. Today we will dive into these lessons and understand how to transform prayer into a truly spiritual experience. Starting a prayer is like opening the door of your heart to the divine presence, an act of profound reverence and humility. Above all, it is essential to recognize the greatness and holiness of God. Just as Moses did when he encountered the burning bush and heard, "Take off your sandals, for this is holy ground." This symbolic gesture invites us to set aside distractions and focus entirely on God. When we say, "Hallowed be your name," we are not only declaring God's holiness, but also reaffirming our faith in his sovereignty. This moment of adoration not only transforms our perspective, but also calms our hearts and prepares our souls for deeper communion. Imagine standing before a king, a loving father, who is ready to listen to every word you speak with infinite attention. This awareness that we are in the divine presence is the first step to meaningful and purposeful prayer. At this point, I want to invite you to reflect and share with us, how would you describe your experience with prayer? Do you feel that you can deeply connect with God like a loving father who listens to your every word? Perhaps you have faced moments when your prayers brought peace, unexpected answers, or even silence that strengthened your faith. Write in the comments, what does prayer mean to you? Your opinion not only inspires others, but also enriches this community of faith and reflection. When Jesus taught his disciples to pray, he emphasized that prayer goes far beyond a simple list of requests or personal desires. He showed us that prayer is, above all, an act of alignment with the divine will, a way of synchronizing our longings with God's eternal purposes. By saying, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven," Jesus invites us to surrender our plans and desires to the Father's sovereignty, trusting that he always knows what is best. Reflect for a moment on the example of Jesus himself in the Garden of Gethsemane. There, facing unimaginable trials, he cried out, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will." This prayer is a demonstration of absolute trust in God's wisdom and plans, even in the face of suffering. Jesus teaches us that surrendering our will is the path to experiencing true peace and purpose in our lives. When we surrender to God's will, we find freedom because we are no longer bound by the limitations of our human desires. It is like letting go of an imperfect map to follow God's perfect plan. Imagine the confidence and serenity that are born from such surrender. Therefore, when you pray, remember that you are not just asking for something, but deeply connecting with the Creator and trusting that his will is always good, perfect and pleasing. Romans 12:2. Focus on the present moment. When Jesus said, "Give us today our daily bread," he taught us a profound lesson about dependence and trust in God for our daily needs. This passage invites us to live with simplicity and faith without being consumed by anxiety about the future. Think of the Israelites in the desert who relied entirely on God's provision of manna. Every morning, they received exactly what they needed for that day, without storing or hoarding for the next, as their trust in God was renewed every morning. Another fundamental point is forgiveness. Jesus taught us to say, "Forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors." Forgiveness is liberating. Think of the parable of the unmerciful servant. When we refuse to forgive, we prevent God's grace from fully working in us. By forgiving, we release not only others but also our own hearts to experience God's restorative love. Remember that the act of forgiving is also a choice to heal yourself and allow divine peace to reign in your life. In daily battles, remember that God is your fortress. When we pray, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil," we acknowledge our weakness and ask for divine protection. Consider the example of Joseph. Resisting the temptation of Potiphar's wife, he trusted God and fled. Likewise, by asking the Lord for help, we strengthen our faith to resist evil. It is essential to remember that we are not alone in our struggles and that divine strength is available to guide and protect us. Choose a quiet place to pray. Daniel, even in the face of prohibition, maintained his intimate moments of prayer. You can find a corner at home, a spot in nature, or even during a walk. These personal moments create an atmosphere conducive to hearing God's voice and sharing your desires. In such environments, it is possible to feel the peace that surpasses all understanding and connect more deeply with the Creator. Do not worry about elaborate words. God values the sincerity of the heart. Consider the example of Hannah, who prayed silently in the temple. God heard her anguish and responded generously. Speak to God as a friend, with simplicity and authenticity. Your prayer does not need to be perfect. It needs to be genuine, coming from the heart, like a conversation full of trust and love. Finally, pray with faith. Jesus said, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours." Believe that God hears your words and trust in his faithfulness. Reflect on blind Bartimaeus, who was healed by his faith. Your trust in God can trigger miracles in your life. This faith is the foundation of effective prayer and a transformative experience with the Father. End your prayer with gratitude. Jesus thanked the Father before multiplying the loaves and fishes. Gratitude transforms your perspective and strengthens your connection with God. Say, "Lord, thank you for your blessings and mercies," and see how this changes your heart. Gratitude is a powerful key to opening doors and keeping the heart aligned with divine goodness. Patience is also essential. In Luke chapter 11, verse 9, Jesus reminds us, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened." This teaches us to trust in God's perfect timing. Just as Abraham and Sarah waited for the promise of a son, we must learn to wait with faith and hope, trusting that God always acts at the right time. Now leave your opinion in the comments. Which teaching of Jesus touched your heart the most? And remember, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any content. May God bless you abundantly.